Alright you guys, what is going on? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to a new video. In this video, I wanted to dive deep into the subject of mind control and breaking our conditioning here in the Matrix, because as I've said in many of my videos, we are the sum total of our conditioning from day one until now, the time you're watching this video. You are, ladies and gentlemen, an amalgam of your conditioning, of the mind control that we have all been exposed to. So, and none of us are above this. We have all been hit by this new world order mind control on multiple different levels, ladies and gentlemen. So I just wanted to start off by saying that in no way, shape, or form am I saying that I'm better than any of you. We are all in this together. And let's just dive into it. A lot of people's health programs here on, especially YouTube, these health coaches and whatnot, they're not putting much of an emphasis on real health, ladies and gentlemen. You may be asking, what the hell does this have to do with mind control? Well, folks, in order to get truly healthy, we have got to remove the consecutive layers of mind control that have stolen the power from our minds. Now, this mind control is a subtle mind control. It happens in kind of an erosion kind of fashion from the time you're young. And as you develop alongside it here in the Matrix when you are younger, you learn to not be able to recognize what the hell is actually going on. So as you get older in the Matrix, you become more accustomed to the mind control bearing its weight down on you, and you learn to think that that's just life. You don't regard it as mind control. I hope that makes sense. Now, what is mind control, folks? Mind control is not just subliminals being exposed to you on the freeway and, you know, commercials that try to get you to remember the little jingles that they have on their advertisement programs to get you to, you know, hum along the songs during your day so that maybe you might, you know, go buy the product. Does that make sense? And yeah, that's how a lot of that's how a lot of these subliminals work on advertisements. They expose you with flashing colors and bright and can't speak today. Holy shit. Excuse me. I think you catch my drift. Commercials work by exposing you to rapid bursts of colors and flicker rates alongside songs that get stuck in your head, so that when you leave the television or turn the radio off, etc., the stuff stays in your mind. And when it stays in your mind, it lingers in there, and then you might go and see the product in the store and buy it. Does that make sense? But as I was saying, mind control is not what people think it is. Mind control is not just you having a subconscious mind with advertisements shoved in it and all this new world order crap. No, mind control, ladies and gentlemen, is when your entire energetic configuration, mind, body, soul complex, etc., is warped into something that it wasn't designed to be. We are energetic beings, ladies and gentlemen. We exist within an aura. An aura is an amalgam of consecutive layers of energy that contains us, our physical body. It wraps around our physical body and keeps us here in this world. Without our aura, we would cease to exist. It keeps all of your subatomic particles, molecules, atoms, etc., bound in a vacuum of sorts here in this energetic world that we live in. So we are isolated units, human beings, and around us we have an aura. This aura keeps us in a energetic vacuum of sorts while we navigate here in this quantum vortex, this matrix, this world, this underworld. So you are a human being, and encased around you, you have consecutive layers of energy that is part of a system that keeps your body bound to this world. Hope that makes sense. Now, outside of our aura is a vast, infinite plane of consciousness and energy. This aura allows us to navigate as physical beings through this dimension of energy while contained within a vacuum of sorts. We'll talk more about that vacuum effect on an energetic level in the near future. But again, This is important to understand when in regards to mind control, ladies and gentlemen, because true mind control takes place within your aura, which Don Juan Matus, the Yaqui Indian sorcerer throughout Carlos Castaneda's books, who was a brujo, a sorcerer, he called this aura the luminous cocoon or the luminous egg. I like to refer to it as the energetic chariot. Now this energetic chariot, also known as an aura, etc., again, is consecutive layers like an onion of energy that starts at a more subtle level, and as it goes down in its consecutive layers, gets more physical until it reaches your physical body. These consecutive layers of subtle to dense energy are intimately connected to your glandular systems, your blood, the different hemispheres, regions, and parts of your brain, your anatomy, your cerebral spinal system, ladies and gentlemen. This aura is also intimately connected to the movement or lack thereof of the Kundalini energy throughout your physical body. This aura is intimately connected to the three main primary channels of the Kundalini, which are known as the Sushumna, which is the main central channel that moves up your spine. Then you have the Ida channel and the Pingala. I've talked about this extensively in the past, so I'm not going to be repetitive, ladies and gentlemen. All I'm going to say, however, is that these three primary energy circuits that Kundalini is designed to move through within our body have been systematically turned off through mind control, through the manipulation of our aura. And when we are turned off from this energetic system, which I've talked about again extensively here on the Patreon page and on my public YouTube channel, these three channels, ladies and gentlemen, that the Kundalini moves up and through are designed to be stable and working and functioning, and when they are, we attain what's known as gnosis or Christ consciousness, or what the Egyptians referred to as the uraeus. This is also known as enlightenment, Christ consciousness again. The awakened Kundalini energetic system, this electrical conduit, allows us to experience reality the way that we were designed to experience it. We were designed to be able to see into the full scope. We were supposed to be able to interact with the full range within our perceptual capabilities of the electromagnetic spectrum. However, our Kundalini has been turned off. Our energetic field has been manipulated, and therefore our body has been malnourished because of that, and a handful of other functions happen when our energetic field is manipulated, and that once full picture of the electromagnetic spectrum is now a very small fraction, and we operate, as you can see on the screen right now, in a tiny little fraction of the whole. This is why when people experience Kundalini or altered states of consciousness, which Don Juan Matus, again the Yaqui Indian sorcerer who taught Carlos Castaneda, he called these states of consciousness, states of non-ordinary reality. When we get past our perceptual blinders, we can see deeper into the electromagnetic spectrum. I hope that makes sense. So the ancient sorcerers, the brujos, the witches, the Gnostics, the Templars, etc., they knew that we were designed to see and interact with reality in a very specific way, and they also knew that certain changes to the biofield, the physiology, the anatomy could inhibit our full picture of the entirety or the way that we were designed to experience reality. This is why they safeguarded certain secrets about human consciousness and the physical body throughout the years. But that's besides the point, ladies and gentlemen. All I'm trying to say right now is that we are a species that has been exposed to a handful of different things that have caused our energetic field to be manipulated in a very grand way. And this grand manipulation of our energetic field has manipulated the proper functionality of the electrical systems in our body, the way our mind works, the health of our organs, glands, tissues, blood, you name it. So, as we've talked about in previous videos, the way largely, or one of the biggest ways that our energetic field gets manipulated, and therefore our consciousness and the health of our body, because again, when the energetic field gets manipulated, all of the parts of you, the sum total of you, gets manipulated as well, As above, so below, as within, so without. We are a reflection physically of what happens on these more causal and subtle energetic levels. So therefore, if the energetic field gets manipulated, your physical body does, and so does your consciousness. But as we've talked about in previous videos, the main way, or one of the main ways that our energetic field gets manipulated is by the movement of what's known as the assemblage point. So I don't want to be redundant or repetitive in this video, because I've talked about the assemblage point extensively, ladies and gentlemen, here on the Patreon page. I've tried to do my best to produce a ton of content about the assemblage point, and I've also recommended specific reading materials that you pick up so that you can learn more about the assemblage point. I've recommended, again, Carlos Castaneda's books, The Art of Dreaming, The Teachings of Don Juan, A Separate Reality, The Eagle's Gift. All of these books go into great detail about the assemblage point and the human energetic configuration. So I'm going to adjust my camera. So in layman's terms, and to be very brief, ladies and gentlemen, the assemblage point is a part of our energetic field that has the ability to move based on our life experiences and what we go through. The assemblage point is in a very it starts off in a fixed location when you're born, and as you come into this world and you're exposed to both the ups and downs of it, your assemblage point starts to shift. Now, it isn't an immediate shift, it's a gradual shift based on specific energetic parameters that we are thrown into here in this world. So for instance, if you have a great life and one day you had a bad day, your assemblage point isn't going to shift into a new location just from one bad day. However, there are specific erosion-like qualities here in the matrix that bear down a weight on a consistent basis on our assemblage point. And because of that, there is a specific underlying current of energy that we're all exposed to for the most part, especially here in the United States, that is so repetitive, it becomes such a part of our daily lives that it causes a gradual shift in the assemblage point. So again, one bad day or a handful of bad days isn't going to shift your assemblage point. However, the energy that you are exposed to on a regular basis, if it is sustained, again, it causes a gradual shift in the assemblage point, and if that energy is sustained for long enough, we're talking years here, ladies and gentlemen, the assemblage point will eventually lock into a new position based on the energetic continuum, the continuity of a specific energetic bandwidth. I hope that makes sense. So, we all come here in the Matrix. We have a few good years. We experience the magic of youth. We experience life for what it's worth because, ladies and gentlemen, when we're younger, our assemblage point is in a very fixed location. It's in a very magical location. It's where it's supposed to be, and that's why when you're younger, you have imaginary friends. Are they really imaginary, or are you actually interacting with the spirit realm, ladies and gentlemen? However, when your parents start telling you that you're experiencing something that's not real and that you might need to go to the psychiatrist and we might get you on meds because you're interacting with imaginary beings, all of these things take your once magical consciousness and start to shift it in a non-appropriate direction. When we're younger, we more often than not, based on the location of our assemblage point, can interact with nature in a very beautiful way, or animals. Many of you were connected to a lot of things that you're no longer connected to anymore. I put a huge emphasis on trying to remember what your youth was like, ladies and gentlemen. But as we're exposed to the school and all the obligations and the tasks and the nonsense and the stress and the embarrassments and the unnecessary medical treatments and all the crap, the bullshit, the vaccines, you name it, your assemblage point, because of the constant erosion of those qualities, takes on the energetic configuration of those qualities by default, like you're fitting into a new mold, and eventually that mold is cast and your assemblage point becomes fixed in a specific location predicated upon what caused it to move in the first place. This is crucial to understand. A large majority of your mind control and who you are at this very moment is predicated upon the current location of your assemblage point. And every great sorcerer, every great brujo, every great alchemist, Gnostic, you name it, knows that the key to altering consciousness, entering into non-ordinary states of reality, and uplifting the human condition and experiencing enlightened states of consciousness is predicated by the ability, or the fluidity, therefore, of the magician, sorcerer, etc.'s. In layman's terms, I don't want to get, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, let me stop embellishing. Moving the assemblage point allows you to experience new states of reality, new states of consciousness. When an individual takes an ayahuasca brew, for instance, their assemblage point is torn into a new position. It's radically repositioned. When an individual practices yoga and has a spontaneous Kundalini awakening, the assemblage point is radically repositioned. That's why you see things differently when you experience Kundalini. You see deeper into the electromagnetic spectrum. When an individual takes a lysergic acid amide potion, for instance, from maybe morning glory seeds, he or she is able to pierce the veil, so to speak, and tap into more of the energetic sea that they live in and be able to perceive it. You see, we only live in a world of hard objects because our eyes, our senses, our metaphysical antennas, our energetic field, and our bodies, etc., have been are instructed by the Matrix, the New World Order, to see within a very limited fraction of the electromagnetic spectrum. When we enter into non-ordinary states of reality, ladies and gentlemen, that limited state that we were operating in prior to entering those states is open. The doors of perception are blasted open, and now you can see into the full spectrum, so to speak, of the electromagnetic spectrum. You see, there's energy around us everywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We are in an ocean, a sea, an infinite labyrinth, if you will, of energy. And our energetic field, our aura, interacts with this energy. Now, there are various fine filtering and tuning mechanisms on our aura that take in energy from the world around us and condense it into more manageable units and then instruct our consciousness on how to see the world. This is crucial to understand. The assemblage point is one of these fine-tuning mechanisms. In fact, it's one of the primary fine-tuning mechanisms. It takes energy from what I call the God grid, which is the energy that's outside of our luminous cocoon. You see, we exist in an energetic shield of sorts that compresses energy and allows us to experience this world. So we are, again, an isolated unit with an energy field around us. Outside of that energy field, there is a vast labyrinth of energy. I call this the God grid. Energy from the God grid interacts with our energy field. Our energy field takes that energy, runs it through various fine-tuning mechanisms and filters, such as but not limited to the assemblage point, and feeds that refined energy from the world around us into our consciousness and dictates how we see the world. Does that make sense? Now, based on the positioning of the assemblage point, that dictates how much of the energy in the world around us, outside of our luminous cocoon, we can actually see and interact with. This is why, again, when someone takes a San Pedro potion, for instance, or a peyote potion, they more often than not can see things that they could not see before. As I've talked about in many of my videos, I like to give the analogy of the tree. When you look at a tree in your current state of conditioning, you just see a solid object. However, the shamans who, again, imbibed in the psychedelic potions, the entheogenic potions, when they look at a tree under the influences of those particular sacraments, they not only see the hard object, which is like the finality of subtle energy condensing into physical energy, they see all of the encapsulated energy around it. They might see spirits moving in and out of the tree, using it as a gateway or a portal to this dimension or beyond. They might see birds actually communicating with the tree, ladies and gentlemen. More often than not, shamans can actually see when they're when they are in states of non-ordinary reality, they can actually see all of the electrical impulses that these trees put off and how they communicate with one another. Some shamans can even see through the earth or see through objects when they are in states of non-ordinary reality, like an X-ray vision, just like X-ray vision, and they can see what's going on underneath the ground. And they can see the vast labyrinth of electrochemical communication that goes on between trees and their roots. There is a mineral kingdom beneath our feet that is highly alive. It is teeming full of life, ladies and gentlemen, and it is all communicating with itself. This world that we live in is absolutely incredible. It is absolutely beautiful. And it is absolutely, undeniably alive in a way that most people will go their entire lives never really seeing or understanding. So again, I brought those things up. And we all know, before I get in, how would I say this? I brought those things up to convey a picture here. That there's more to life than what you see. We have been conditioned to see things, only physical hard objects, when in fact we live in a world of moving energy. Even the things that appear to be stable are not stable. Everything is energy, and matter is energy condensed into various different levels of vibration, ladies and gentlemen. We only perceive it as solid. We only perceive solid objects as solid because our eyes and our senses have been conditioned to only see solid objects. Our fine filtering mechanisms in our energy field and in our consciousness have been designed and instructed on how to perceive certain things, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that makes sense. And again, that's why when shamans look at physical objects, they more often than not see the energy moving through those solid objects, if you will. So again, our consciousness right now is like a television set, metaphorically speaking, that has 2,000 channels, but we were never taught how to change the channel. And the channel that we're on is just this really old channel that is all black and white. There's nothing new on it. It's just a repetition of the same shows, you name it. That's like our lives right now on a collective level. We're all on the same channel, watching the same crap, and we've never even been told, and we don't even know or have the ability to ponder if there's a way to change the channel. We only think there's one channel. Does that make sense? When you start to move your assemblage point, when you start to forcibly move it through entering into states of shamanic consciousness or non-ordinary realities, when you start to practice yoga or do the full body relaxation exercises, etc., you start to change the channel. You start to realize that there's more to life than what you've been watching or viewing. It's kind of like Plato's cave. In fact, we are kind of like a living, breathing version of Plato's cave. There are so many paradoxes in this matrix, it's insane. So, again, I find it really strange that most health practitioners aren't talking about the assemblage point. They're not talking about the energetic fields around our body. How can you fucking be healthy if you don't address the health of your energy field when it literally creates your reality? That's like saying that what would be a good metaphor for that, ladies and gentlemen? That's like saying that the light that is put off by a light bulb has nothing to do with how much it illuminates the world around you. Does that make sense? Right now we are like a light bulb that uses 5% of its potential. When we move the assemblage point, when we enter into these non-ordinary states of reality, when we start to pierce the veil that has been pulled over our eyes, when we start to lift the veil, our light bulb starts to work at 20, 30, 40, 50, 60% of its luminosity, and you start to see that which was hidden prior. I call this illuminating the darkness of the ether. What is the darkness? The darkness, ladies and gentlemen, is everything that you cannot see around you that is existing around you simultaneously, even though you can't see it. It's kind of like when you're in a dark room, you can't see the physical objects, but when you throw the light on, there's a bunch of physical objects. Just because you can't see something doesn't mean it's not there. That's what I'm trying to convey. And right now there is a world of energy around us. There are spirits around us and angels and all sorts of crazy shit. Electrochemical signals and different heat signatures coming off of plants. Animals communicating with one another, ladies and gentlemen. Clouds communicating with one another. There are elementals in this world everywhere, so to speak, but we cannot see them because of our conditioning, the way that our energetic field has instructed our body, our brains, and our minds to interact with the world around us, the energy world. So when you start to, again, wake up and truly start to pierce the veil, the light starts to turn on, and you start to see that even though you couldn't see a lot of stuff that's is currently, or how would I say it? When you start to wake up, you start to realize that there's a lot going on in the world around you that you couldn't see or interact with prior. So again, just like Don Juan Matus said, the Yaqui Indian sorcerer who taught Carlos Castaneda, there's a huge difference between looking at something and seeing something. Any fool can look at a hard object or a tree and look at it. That doesn't mean they're seeing the whole picture. They're not seeing it for all of its glory. They're not seeing its energetic configurations. Crucial to understand, ladies and gentlemen, if you're serious about truly getting healthy, because real health is not taking your protein shake at 6 a.m. every morning. It's not going on your little jog and, logging your food on chronometer. Real health is the pursuit and the attainment of what we are designed to be, ladies and gentlemen. It's called enlightenment. We have the ability within our body, minds, and souls to reach heightened states of consciousness that are our birthright. How can you be healthy in a world when you're operating on the improper software? We were designed to operate with a specific software. We are no longer doing that. Nowadays, the average health practitioner just wants you to operate as best as you can with the software, the bogus software that we've all been forced to operate on. No. I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that we have the ability to run biological, physiological, spiritual antivirus systems on our consciousness, body, energetic field, and soul, so that we can systematically target these foreign installations that have been pumped into us by the Matrix and the New World Order, and we can selectively remove them through acknowledging what they are, getting rid of these viruses, these virus programs in our consciousness that are inhibiting the way that our energy field and our body, soul, and mind interacts with this world and our own personal destiny. We have the ability to remove these bogus installations and get more of our life back. The real pursuit of true health, ladies and gentlemen, is the pursuit of attaining Christ consciousness. This is known as gnosis or nirvana. The true path to health, ladies and gentlemen, it addresses much more than just your physical health and subtle layers of your mind, which is, again, what most health practitioners, dietitians, nutritionists, etc. preach. They preach, take care of your physical body and make sure to reduce your stress and make sure to take your multivitamin and this, that, and the other. I'm here to tell you that there's much more beyond this, and that physical health is important, and so are the lower levels of your mind, but that there's much more to leap into and to pursue. You see, we're operating on, again, bogus bullshit software, outdated software. And when you operate on this software, you don't get anywhere in life. It's like you're on a rat wheel. You're running and you're expelling energy, but you're not getting anywhere. We have to remember, ladies and gentlemen, that the body, the mind, the energy field, every part of our being is constantly seeking evolution and growth and renewal. The software that we've been instructed to live our lives on increase accelerated entropy and aging. They keep your mind on a rat wheel, and that rat wheel is causing you to expel energy while getting nowhere, while never getting you to recover and experience divine renewal. When we get out of the software and we start updating our minds, when we start removing the foreign installations of our consciousness and our body and our soul, we start to realize that, okay, the software again is outdated. Let's update the software, which will in turn update the hardware, which is our physical body. And it's just, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm trying to say here, I've got so much in my mouth that I'm trying to channel. What I'm trying to say here is that we need a software update, and we have to do a antivirus scan, multiple, before we can update the software. Once we update the software, once we get the Kundalini moving through us, once we start entering into non-ordinary states of reality, we start to realize that the software that we were operating on was bullshit, and that it's causing entropy, it's causing aging. So the software that we've been operating on is the lives that we live. Work, grinding your gears, this idea that you don't get anywhere in life without a struggle, all this bullshit. This world where we live in, these electromagnetic saturated homes, and we believe with every fiber of our being that we're aging constantly. There's all this crap in our consciousness, in our soul, in our minds, in our subconscious mind. It needs to be removed. How we interact with time, our beliefs about aging, all of these things drastically accelerate our aging. And this is just two little subfacets of the overall bullshit software that we've been operating on, this New World Order poison. We have to remove, first we have to acknowledge we have to go into states where we can introspect, where we can reflect, so that we can see the errors in our own thinking, in our soul and in our consciousness. And through the acknowledgement process of that which shouldn't be there, that which is errored or an aberration, we can systematically target those pieces of our soul, body, and minds and remove them and replace them with updated software. Now, I'm not going to tell you per se how to run an antivirus system on your body, soul, and mind. I will, however, say, ladies and gentlemen, that shamanism, I'm just going to say, shamanism. I'm not recommending that you do it. I'm not recommending that you take psychedelic potions, etc. All I'm telling you is that shamanism is a very valid path to coming into contact with, or being able to run the antivirus systems. They help you see past your perceptual blinders. And when you exit your perceptual blinders, ladies and gentlemen, you can look at your life and what you're going through in life from outside of yourself, so to speak. I don't want to get into a whole spiel about that. Go watch my video on shamanism that I put together last month, towards the end of the month. It's like an hour long. The full body relaxation exercise, the thoughtlessness exercise, and the full body isolation or motionlessness exercise, that's a crucial component, ladies and gentlemen, to being able to start to see the installations of your mind. Excuse me, I've got neighbors watching me. Always throws me off course when I see someone spying on me. We have to learn to freeze our mind. You see, we operate on bad software because we've been running on it so long that we don't recognize that it's even there. We have to have systems of freezing what we're currently going through, and through the freezing process, more often than not, you can slow things down enough to be able to see the errors in what we're operating on. So it's just a crazy world, ladies and gentlemen. It is a crazy, crazy world. The shamans, the brujos, the sorcerers, the Gnostics, the Templars, every great group that attained higher consciousness knew that our bodies and our minds have the ability to be conditioned into suboptimal states, and that this has to do with our energy field first and foremost. By manipulating the energy field, you can manipulate the organism living within it. In the same way that manipulating the energetic, in the same way that if you manipulate the electrical flow to a light bulb, you can manipulate its luminosity. You can manipulate the luminosity of human beings by manipulating the way that the energy moves into their systems. And this starts first and foremost through our energy fields. Through our kidneys, our organs, you name it. These are crucial things, and this is why I put a huge emphasis on I talk a lot about the energy field, I talk a lot about the assemblage point because it's crucial, but I also put a huge emphasis on you taking action now through your physical body. Start getting the medicinal mushrooms into your system pronto. Start blocking the blue light, start grounding yourself. The quickest way to bring energy back into your system from the earth, the quickest way to bring energy back into your energy field is by grounding yourself. We are electrical beings, ladies and gentlemen, and when we're grounded, we get stabilized. Grounding in electrical terms or in terminology means to return to normal. And when we stand barefoot on the earth, ladies and gentlemen, we return to normal. Our energy field is grounded and it starts to expand. So, there's so many things I could say about this. I don't want to get repetitive about grounding. All I'm going to say is that spending time outside on at least an hour a day is going to start to gradually shift your assemblage point if you maintain that schedule. Your energy field can expand when you're grounded and when you're outside. When you're inside and you're not grounded, your energy field gets constricted by the walls that you live within, all of the sharp right angles of where your walls connect that cause the energy not to flow. There's dirty electricity and blue light in your home. All of these things affect the way that your energy field expands or breathes. When you get outside and you're grounded, when you're barefoot on the earth, your energy field can breathe, it can expand. It can start to spin in a different manner. So another thing that you can do, and we've talked about this before, is look at the screen right now, the grounding pit. As you see that I'm pointing at right now, there's a giant pit right there. It's much deeper in person than it looks like on the camera. You can start to lay in a grounding pit. And when you lay in a grounding pit like that, ladies and gentlemen, more than just your feet are grounded. Most people, when they ground themselves, they're only grounded via the foot. When you lay on dirt, and you can lay hemp down or, other things so that you're not laying directly on the dirt. When you lay down on the dirt, all of the meridians of your back touch the earth. And as I've mentioned in the past, the earth pulls energy out of your system while at the same time siphoning negatively charged electrons that have a positive effect on our health. It shuttles it right into your system. These electrons remove inflammation, increase circulation, reduce stiffness in joints. They revitalize the electrical systems of the body, ladies and gentlemen, the meridians, you name it. Now, when you lay in a pit like that, the pit compresses your energy field, and the energy has a more difficult time expanding, and because of that, the energy is contained within the pit and it saturates back into your system. This is called energetic recirculation or recycling. It's different when you're in a pit, though, that is in the earth, in comparison to, like what I said prior, when your energy field can't expand, or it can't expand in your home with the walls. It's different when you're in the earth. It's good to compress your energy field when you're beneath the earth because it goes back into your system. You see, when your energy field tries to expand in your home, there's so much Wi-Fi and EMF that it tries to attenuate the surrounding energy field, and it becomes this hodgepodge of static garbage energy. When you go underneath the earth, it's beneficial. I hope that makes sense. So anyways, you guys, there's so much that you can start doing for your health. You just have to be creative, and you have to put the wheels in motion. Without motion, there is stagnation. And when there's stagnation, ladies and gentlemen, let's just take a look at what happens when a river stagnates. The water doesn't flow past the rocks, doesn't cause backspinning and oxygenation and bubbling. The water starts to become tepid. Algae starts to grow, non-beneficial algae. The bugs start to come, fish start to die, you name it. Parasites start to infiltrate. A large reason why we age so fast, ladies and gentlemen, is that, again, we're on that rat wheel. And although that rat wheel that I talked about earlier, it seems like we're moving, it seems like there's progression, there's no progression. It's stagnation. It's operating within a non-expanded set of confines. It's like being in a jail cell, essentially. You see, the problem is that most people go the entire duration of their lives on the rat wheel, and they never get off long enough to realize that they're in a cage. You have to get off the rat wheel to realize that you're in a cage. And then by realizing that you're in a cage, you start to see that the rat wheel is a distraction. And because of that, when you see that truly, you start to realize that, holy shit, something's keeping me in a cage and that there's more outside of the cage. And instead of expelling my energy on the damn rat wheel, I'm going to expel my energy and my mental creativity to formulate a plan to get out of the damn cage. And then once you get out of the cage, ladies and gentlemen, you start to realize that there's much more to life. And when you realize that there's much more to life, you start to realize that you were lied to and put in a specific set of confines, which was the cage, and that the limitations that you thought you had while you were in the cage don't apply to life outside of the cage. And that's really when you start to attain greater health and when you start to grow exponentially. When you can let go completely of the cage consciousness, the cage beliefs that you harbored while in the cage. And I understand why you have them, or why you had them. It's because you didn't know any better. You thought that life was the cage, because again, just like Plato's cave, that's all you've known. Just like Plato's cave, you have got to familiarize yourself with Plato's cave. We are in Plato's cave, ladies and gentlemen. You are in a cage. On a rat wheel, losing your energy at an exponential rate while thinking that this is life, it's just the way it is. And all these stupid, pathetic excuses that we give the Matrix so that we can live in this vampiric system that drains us on a just constantly. Part of get out of, we even live in cages in these homes. Now, I'm not saying that we should be hippies and go live out in teepees. I am, however, saying that when you spend the majority of your life indoors, you live in a fucking cage. You spend 1/3 of your life indoors sleeping. You spend another third of your life indoors working. And on top of that, you spend another large majority of your life indoors after work, relaxing, preparing meals, you name it. 90% of your life, in fact, 95% of your life is spent indoors. How can you expect to have an energetic life? How can you expect to attain energetic alchemical perfection when you're living in a fucking house and spending all of your time indoors under the alternating current garbage fluorescent lighting that's suppressing your melatonin, prolactin, and neurotransmitters? I mean, I could go on and on forever about how just your house is killing you, but you spend 95% of your life indoors. Indoors, ladies and gentlemen, is not an energetic world. It's a shelter. Shelters are designed to keep you safe, to house your possessions, your food. But on top of that, we're not supposed to spend our entire lives indoors. Imagine a Native American back in the day that spent 95% of their lives in their teepee. That's ridiculous. They spent a large majority of their time outdoors interacting with the world, interacting with the energetic continuum around them, the animals, the plants. They traveled, they explored, they swam in natural bodies of water. I mean, all of this is energy, ladies and gentlemen. Again, imagine a tribe that spent 95% of their life indoors. That's what we are here in the Matrix, but we've been conditioned to think it's normal because we think that working and constant energetic expenditure on the behalf of living and paying rent is normal. It's ridiculous. It's an absolute flaw. And we have the tools, ladies and gentlemen, to remove ourselves from this vampiric system, recover from its bullshit, and start to live more in tandem with what we were designed to live like. The choice is yours and yours alone, but I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that a lot of the people out here that are preaching health, a lot of the people who claim to have your best interest at heart are leading you in the wrong direction because they're in the cage. They don't know that they're in the cage, and because of that, they try to inspire you to live the greatest quality of life while in the cage. Again, most people are not talking about the health of the aura, the health of the energy field. They're not addressing these parts of our very real arcane anatomy, I like to call it. The energy field that you are currently inhabited in, that you're living your life in, and its tweaks that have been, enacted upon it, cause you to live in a state of consciousness that resembles the cage. I'm speaking in metaphors, parables here, ladies and gentlemen. The world as you know it, you think that that's what life is because you don't know any better. You don't have a reference point. We talked about the reference point in previous videos, folks. The reference point is crucial to understand. You have to have a reference point in life, and most people don't, and that's why they operate in the cage and think it's the greatest thing ever. They don't know that there's anything outside of the cage. We have to have ways of comparing things to other things. Kind of like the reference point, as I've talked about in previous videos. You can't really know what hot water's like until you experience it. And you can't really know what cold water's like unless you experience it. Those are reference points. By jumping into cold water after experiencing warm water, you might realize that, wow, I like warm water better because it relaxes my muscles. It's not as, it's not as detrimental to my. It just shocks me. Cold water does, and I like warm water. You now have a reference point. Most people don't have a reference point outside of the cage that they're in. And this is why deliberately seeking states of non-ordinary reality can really help us climb out of the matrix or the rabbit hole, ladies and gentlemen. It can help us tumble down the rabbit hole. Because until you experience non-ordinary states of reality, altered states of consciousness, heightened states of awareness and perception, how are you going to know that there's anything outside of the perception that you're experiencing now? You don't have a reference point. And when you don't have a reference point, ladies and gentlemen, you have nothing but similar energy. You operate on the same paradigm constantly. You're on the rat wheel, losing your energy to this suboptimal state. And the suboptimal state that we live in here in the Matrix comes with a handful of ramifications. It teaches you how to view things. It teaches you how to look at yourself in a certain way. It teaches you certain belief systems about aging and who you are. And it's a totally backwards bullshit system that needs to go. And the only way it's going to go, ladies and gentlemen, is if first and foremost we have a reference point to compare its bullshit to. And on top of that, once we get the reference point, we need to undergo a very strict and seriously we need a set of antivirus systems that we can run on our consciousness, on our soul, on our body, on our spiritual body. Those will lead to further reference points, and you can use those reference points as anchoring systems or pylons to quantum leap out of your suboptimal state, because you have a reference point. Once you have a reference point, you can start moving in the opposite direction. Until then, you're charting uncharted, or you're traveling uncharted waters. I hope that makes sense. So, before we wrap this one up, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say, familiarize yourself with the works of Carlos Castaneda. Start with the teachings of Don Juan. Read Overcoming the Archon Through Alchemy. Read Christian D. Larson's book, Your Forces and How to Use Them. Read the little book of Stoicism. Start to gather energy. Start to ground yourself. Ground yourself every day. And before you go ground yourself, ladies and gentlemen, take your medicinal mushroom complex. That is a solid foundation. And start blocking the blue light when the sun goes down with the UVAC Skypers. Couple that with researching the works of Carlos Castaneda will help you, ladies and gentlemen, if you're serious about approaching shamanism. By reading his works, your imagination will take you in specific directions that can lead you to approaching shamanism if you're serious about it. I'm not recommending that you approach shamanism. I'm just telling you what works for me, what continues to work for me, and what continues to work for thousands and thousands of other people. So, block the blue light when the sun goes down with the UVAC Skypers. Ground your bed, ground yourself daily. Take the medicinal mushrooms, take your magnesium, folks. Get your minerals into your system. Read the works of Carlos Castaneda, or preferably listen to the audiobooks. Start with the teachings of Don Juan that will act as a legitimate primer to approach sorcery, to approach shamanism. I prefer the term sorcery, just like Don Juan Mattis did. Shamanism is, although I use the word, I don't favor it. Sorcerers interact with energy. We live in an energetic continuum, a vortex, if you will, a quantum vortex. I'm going to wrap it up, you guys. I love you all. Peace be with you.